Good morning, Happy New Year to everyone, and we'll call to order the meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, your agenda is in order and ready for your approval. I'd like to point out that we do have 6 fuel revenue indexing projects on the consent agenda.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Your second item is to receive the General Manager's report. As part of our driver recognition program, we'd like to recognize an outstanding operator from TransDev, our paratransit service provider. Congratulations to Jawan Moten, if he's in the audience, if we could have him come down. Yay! Jawan was selected because of his exceptional attendance record and has a 98.75% on-time performance average. His employer, coworkers, and passengers know they can rely on him to be where he needs to be when he's supposed to be there. Thank you for your hard work and determination to provide quality service to our paratransit clients.
I just want to thank y'all for choosing me.
No words? No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jawan.
Congratulations.
You've asked us to come
Tina,
back.
excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
Let everybody get situated. That's a wonderful lesson there for our board members as far as acceptance speeches.
The board has asked us to come back quarterly to report to them the progress of our fuel revenue indexing efforts. Today we have an update for you. The numbers I'm going to present in the following slides reflect the fuel revenue indexing progress through the end of last year, so through the end of 2014. As of December 31st, 83 design and construction contracts have been awarded. Of those, 56 were design and 27 were construction contracts. This included 53 local small businesses. These 53 businesses account for about 58% of the companies who have received work through fuel revenue indexing. And when we did take on the responsibility of administering these fuel revenue indexing funds, you made it very clear to us that you wanted that money to stay local and that you wanted there to be opportunities for small businesses, and we heard you and we continue to be committed to that. $164 million have been awarded as a result, and 2,100 jobs have been created. And it's important to remember, again, these jobs would not be there without the fuel revenue indexing effort. Looking a little bit more into the local small business breakdown, 40% of those businesses were WBEs, DBEs, or MBEs, and the other were small local businesses. 60% were other small local businesses. Recent projects are the projects that we had groundbreakings for in the last quarter of 2014. Include construction began on the Clark County 215 Beltway from Decatur Boulevard to North 5th Street. This project created about 526 jobs. Next, Simmons Street from Alexander Road to Gowan, and Centennial Parkway from Camino El Dorado to Lamb Boulevard, which created 81 jobs directly with fuel revenue indexing money, but this project is part of a larger flood project as well. And combined with the flood dollars, we have over 200 jobs allocated to that project. But it's important to know that that project would not have been able to go forward without the fuel revenue indexing. And lastly, the City of Henderson held a grand opening ceremony to celebrate the completion of Galleria Drive near Lake Las Vegas, and this project created 13 jobs. 2014 was a big year for FRI. As of December 31st, about 65% of the total work has been awarded, and we look forward to 2015 and the upcoming projects that will create jobs and strengthen our community. And that is the conclusion of the General Manager's report. Any questions?
Comments or questions?
I just have a comment, Mr.
Councilman.
I think it's incumbent that we have these reports from time to time, Ms. Quigley, and I say that because it's important that we get this message out to the residents of Southern Nevada and how economically important this fuel revenue indexing is, and how it's having a positive effect on the economy and job creation and keeping food on tables for families in Southern Nevada. Love hearing about the small businesses, the local businesses that we all emphasized on as we went down this path. So congratulations, keep up the great work, and I look forward to the next report.
Thanks. And I do have to compliment the public works directors in each one of the jurisdictions as well. There's been a lot of pressure put on them to get these jobs out, and they have been accommodating. They know that it's important to you and to their boards, their city councils, and their county commission. So I know it's been a lot of work for them and their staff, but they have been truly dedicated to getting them out.
Commissioner June Kiliani.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say that about the Public Works. I want to thank ours especially. I know they finished the DI project, which affected a bunch of our districts, but I used to hear from constituents that they were born and raised here and they'd never been on DI without a cone. And they're probably still correct about that. But they did that project very well. The minority company that they hired, the small business, to do the public outreach was great. The businesses were happy with the notifications. So we're doing it right. I just hope legislatively maybe they could give us a little bit more of an extension. So hopefully something comes up this next legislative session that, you know, at some point we still do the voter, but maybe give us an extension of time since this is really working as well as everybody intended.
Chris, that's a good point. If, Tina, why don't we post an agenda item, just an update or a preview of legislation?
Okay.
Any kind of BDRs that may or may not impact the RTC. I think it'd be appropriate in February just to get a sense and to alert the board and their respective agencies as far as things to be looking for. And I'd like to just add on the FRI. It's we heard it today at flood control, Tina's project out in the northern part of the valley. Not only our projects and the success we're having with those, but the direct impact it's having on other public infrastructure projects. These combinations, as you just mentioned, this project wouldn't have gone forward but for the fact that flood control funding was available. That's critically important. And then the FRI dollars that are now freeing up additional public work dollars to accumulate and do additional projects. And that's been a tremendous benefit, almost an added benefit from what we talked about a year ago. And likewise, that credit goes to the public work directors and their departments. They've done a great job.
I can't compliment them enough. It's important to note that even though the RTC administers these funds, that these projects actually are bid and controlled through the public works and the entities themselves. So we administer, but they are the ones who are actually responsible for executing. And that's where a lot of the real work is.
All right, everybody pat themselves on the back quickly and then let's go. we got a lot more projects to get out there.
That concludes the General Manager's report. Agenda item number 3 is to receive the Nevada Department of Transportation Director's report.
Thank you, Tina, Mr. Chairman, and board members. As everybody saw through congressional action in the middle of December and late December, they did take action in Congress to fund transportation as well as a lot of the other federal programs. It's still something that we're going to watch closely. My Deputy Director, Tracy Larkin-Thomason, is going to be back in Washington, D.C. next week, and is going to reach out to the members of our delegation. And I will be going in late February to do the same, to stress the importance of a long-term funding for transportation for Nevada transportation agencies, including NDOT and RTCs. So the government shutdown was averted. They still have to address also the expiration of the Transportation Authorization Bill, which is the end of May. Good news, though, is that our newest representative, Crescent Hardy, is also on that House T&I Committee, Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, along with Dina Titus. So we have two representatives there on that important committee for transportation. The update on Interstate 11 Boulder City Bypass Phase 1 project for NDOT. That was a low bid contract. We received bids recently. Fisher is the apparent low with a concrete option. What we did was alternative bids on that project. So we bid concrete, contractors bid concrete and asphalt pavements. Fisher is apparent low. What we did was add on an equivalency factor to the asphalt, because asphalt doesn't last as long as concrete. So to be fair in comparison, that's what we did. And it turns out that Fisher beat the second apparent low bidder, Las Vegas Paving, by about $600,000. But I've been anticipating that this will go before the Transportation Board in February. So we're doing looking into the bid as we speak today, vetting that to make sure that there's no discrepancies, and we'll make the final recommendations in February for the award of that project to the Transportation Board. Good news on the US 95 Northwest project at the interchange there with the Beltway to construct the north to east ramps and the south to west ramps. That project's going to advertise the first week in February, and we appreciate the fuel revenue indexing funds that are applied to the US 95 widening projects in that northwest part of the valley. Our big design build project, Neon, $500 million project, we shortlisted 3 teams. There were some changes, so the prime contractors were the same as what we saw previously. The Granite construction team changed some of the members. They teamed up with another contractor rather than the firm from Arizona that they originally had when it was going to be a different type of procurement. But we anticipate to issue the draft request for proposals next week, and containing that draft request for proposals for Project Neon is the ability to earn up to $20 million in incentives for early completion of various portions of the project. So we know that it's going to be quite a headache for travelers on I-15, on US 95, and that core of Las Vegas on the transportation system, and we wanted to have some incentives that are appropriate so that the design build team can get in and get out of there as reasonably as possible, as quickly as possible. On Monday, we have a Transportation Board meeting, and on the agenda is a road relinquishment item that we've been talking about periodically here at the RTC board meetings. But there will be a formal public hearing at 1:30, so to allow the public to have input on adoption of the temporary regulations before they go to the legislature. So the Transportation Board will hopefully adopt those temporary regulations. So there's a fair process for road transfers, road relinquishments. I know that Deputy Director Tracy Larkin-Thomason has been reaching out to Commissioner June Kiliani's office to set up a meeting to talk specifically about Clark County's opportunities for road transfers and road relinquishments with NDOT. And we anticipate doing the same thing with all of the local entities down here. In terms of fatalities, not a good report there. We did have about 20 more fatalities on our streets and highways, not just state roads, but all the streets and highways in Nevada last year compared to the year before. So a lot more work to do. We do continue to work with law enforcement as well as the folks that do more education and outreach on seatbelt use, not driving impaired, not driving distracted with cell phones and such. But we have a lot of work to do. One of the things that I'm going to take forward to the Transportation Board is a request to spend some additional money on some projects that were more pedestrian focused. You've seen a lot of pedestrian fatalities, one recently on Boulder Highway. In some cases, we know that it's due to jaywalking, but we feel that the need to go out there and put in some more infrastructure, such as some of the flashing lights that you see at some of the crosswalks. And in some cases, it's not something that you can address. Sometimes it's the behavior of a driver that's driving impaired or a pedestrian that's jaywalking. But in other cases, we think that we can do better. And I'm going to request the board approve some additional funding, state funds, not federal, for this effort down here in Southern Nevada to improve safety. The other thing to mention was an update on RTC had actually identified a project that was needed on Lake Mead in North Las Vegas, State Route 147. So that project is from Civic Center, I think to, what's the cross street? Civic Center to Pecos. So we were looking at, and a lot of the the entities are embracing the idea of reducing lanes and providing more safety for bicyclists, pedestrians. So we are proceeding with that. We have the anticipate 30% design on that. So we're going to eliminate a lane, have more room for bicyclists with the bike lane there, and wider sidewalks. So it will really enhance that entryway into North Las Vegas on Lake Mead Boulevard. We anticipate final design being completed early next year, and then contract that out next year, and complete that by January of 2017. But this is kind of in line with NDOT embracing this perspective of doing some improvements, not just being totally focused on movement of traffic, cars, but looking at all users of the system. And that will be a federally funded project, so independent of the ones that I was just previously talking about that would be state funded. And then legislatively, we are going to coordinate with RTC of Southern Nevada on a tour of Southern Nevada projects and transportation issues on January 28th. That's with the state Senate. And hopefully we can set up the same type of meeting with the Assembly side if they're not going to join in on the 28th. But Tina and Angela have been great to work with. We'll coordinate on the messaging for the fuel revenue indexing issue that they're going to deliberate in this next session, as well as some update on the major projects here in Southern Nevada. And that concludes the director's report. Thank you.
Commissioner June Kiliani.
Thank you, Rudy, and thanks for mentioning the pedestrian piece, because we have had quite a few fatalities, and you're absolutely right. I watch them speed down Okie to Metro. Please park on 15th, and you'll get a bunch of money. But that said, part of what I appreciate the infrastructure, because there are some crosswalks that have probably been there forever. I think of Charleston in the middle of 11th Street, and there's no flashers, and I watch people just not pay attention at all. So I think looking at sites where we either have had past problems or maybe soliciting from folks where we've personally seen those types of things will at least help with striping it better, flashing it better, marking it better, or maybe in some cases moving it to a better site because of bus turnouts that weren't there years back. Now people cross in a different way. So that might be very helpful. The Boulder Highway, you're absolutely correct. It's such a long way from one area to safely cross, and I have a lot of senior housing that's actually on one side of Boulder. To get over there is going to be a real factor. So that would be really, really helpful, and that's for everybody. I mean, that doesn't just mean my district, but I do think maybe an education component, because I don't think drivers know that the speed limit on our streets is 25 unless posted otherwise. And New York, I was reading what they had done on their they changed their speed limit. Ours is already there, but I don't think people pay it. Because you don't put a sign on more often than not. So maybe re-educating folks that if there's no sign, it's 25 miles an hour, and work on some enforcement components that come into that. But the widening for the kids trying to get to school, the safe routes to schools and all that part of it, the bike lanes, I'm a supporter of limiting and getting some. In fact, I finally convinced Dennis to do a roundabout up on Hollywood and start to narrow that. And so we made freeways for people, and they just got used to speeding down them regardless of where. So I think where we can put lesser true traffic calming devices that actually help, but also eliminate some of those wide lanes that just are a straight pathway will be very, very helpful. So I appreciate that personally, that you're looking at that, and NDOT's looking at not just lanes, but what happens within them, and I think that's very, very helpful.
Mayor Lee.
Just something interested me, this legislative tour that you just talked about. You know, Chris and I, Commissioner June Kiliani and I have served in the legislature, but there's been a lot of turnover, and probably for the best. You know, I like term limits, new ideas, new people joining in. But on this tour, is it possible that the RTC members, are you going to have a lunch or something? There's so many new members in the legislature, and I don't even recognize yet the transportation leadership on each house yet. I haven't even really paid attention yet on that, you know. But I guess my question, is there going to be a lunch or something there, or could we host a lunch? Number two is, or could we take a partial tour so that you know, as mayors and county commissioners and stuff, it'd be good for us to have a chance to maybe meet some of these newer members, or is it exclusive to what you're trying to accomplish?
I think there's an opportunity there to set that up. So they've just told us about their availability. Now we were going to work with RTC on the logistics, and we anticipated it'd be best to, we have a captive audience, make the best use of their time and have a lunch included. We were thinking of if we start in the morning, 9:30, with a tour, kind of briefings, and then we have to just discuss some of the details about some of the RTC board members that would be willing to and are available that day to kind of join in on that.
Mr. Chair, I think that'd be a very good opportunity for some of us who have the availability in our calendars to get to know some of these people who will have so much direction on the future of our state. So if we could do that and have a little
Sure,
lunch
I'll
or something.
remind you, it is just right now, it's just the Senate Transportation Committee, of which I think we've got just 3 or 4 commitments so far. So it's not a super huge audience, but I do like the idea very much of having the RTC board get some time to interact with the Senate Transportation Committee. Sure.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ray, would you get that information to my officer, Tracy, so I can get that in my newsletter about the going out to bid in February for the flyovers at 215 and 95, so we can get that in the newsletter and then any social media. Also, we can get out to the residents out in the northwest to keep them informed of when that might happen, because I get a lot of those questions all the time. When's that going to happen? When's that going to happen? So through you guys, it'll help me a lot. Thank you.
Commissioner June Kiliani.
Thank you, sorry. And this is to Councilman Ross. I believe City of Las Vegas, did they, like this last year, do an analysis of your crosswalks or some kind of plan and bring that forward that we maybe could share with NDOT, but maybe we could see how you did it? And
I believe Councilman
think I
Barlow.
read something about
Councilman
that.
Barlow asked for that, so I think that's been done. I don't see any staff in the audience today to
Okay,
get that answer.
but maybe you can find out and share with us,
You bet.
because if there's a way for us to assess that, where we're at least putting a plan together, even if you don't have the financing to change it, you identify, you know, sometimes you do road construction and it changes just enough of the roadway that maybe you should put a curve now sign or some things that you don't think about.
Yeah, my staff's in the audience, so
Okay.
we'll get on that and get the your
Thank
office.
you,
bet.
Mr. Chair.
My turn, Rudy. It's the new year, and we have a couple resolutions. New Year's resolutions. One, and I'm sure some of my colleagues got some calls on the recent article or editorial somewhere over the holidays as far as the $100 million road up north. And the question that I was asked, and this is certainly the Tesla project and everything's wonderful, but they quoted the 100 million, and was that, if you could explain, was that 100 million to build the road, or did that include building the road and buying the right-of-way?
That included building the new road and buying the right-of-way and paying for some of the improvements made to date. So
Okay, and where did that money come from?
that was from state funds, state highway funds.
So it certainly wasn't on the 5-year transportation improvement plan.
It was a project that we were advancing. We were doing the environmental clearance, and it was accelerated when Tesla had announced that they were moving into that industrial center.
You're our champion, so it's going to be on you. Here's the issue. Even in some of your general comments, thanks to FRI, we're able to do this, and we're able to do that. This equity issue certainly is going to become critically important in the 2015 legislative session. But we cannot, certainly as a board and more importantly as Southern Nevada, let this slip one bit. We cannot take a step backwards. And if we even take what's happened in the past and just put it in the past and look forward, we don't anticipate equity. We deserve more than equity. We deserve a priority for these type funds at the state level to be focused down here. NDOT, 100% funding, not NDOT projects supported by FRI or supported by other things. We need these dollars that 70% of the state's population is paying into to come back to Southern Nevada. And we certainly appreciate what's going on, Project Neon. Tracy was kind enough to give me the timelines on some of those big projects, and we hope they stay on track. My understanding that's scheduled, I think, to be under construction January 2017. That's the fast track that we want. But Rudy, just as a favor, we need someone, and it's you, because you represent NDOT, to be a champion for Southern Nevada. And with no disrespect to Northern Nevada or the rurals, we need a voice at the state level to ensure and almost mandate that these funds start getting channeled to our critical projects. There's too many of these examples. And again, with all respect to Tesla and all the jobs it will create and the $100 million road, that's wonderful. That's good for that area. But some of the reasons and justifications for it, as far as making it easier for people to get through rush hour and facilitating economic development, we've been doing that in Southern Nevada for 20 years. And we still, as a RTC and Public Works departments, we're still paying for things that the state should be doing. The other piece of that Tesla article came with, they talked about the beltway around Carson City. 100% funded, my understanding, by NDOT, maintained by NDOT. And we have our beltway that's 20 years in the making, still being funded by local dollars. Maybe NDOT should look at taking that and finishing the beltway. We have projects that NDOT should be involved with down here, 100% of state dollars. And the resolution, the ask from me personally, and certainly on behalf of the board, is we need to get out in front of this. If we remain, I'll be careful. If we remain complacent, we continue to see evidence that the dollars remain inequitable. And that's just unacceptable. It's really unacceptable. And I would ask you, and I would ask my colleagues, to get far more engaged going into the legislative session to bring this equity issue up again. It has to be brought up. It has to be pushed to the front of the agenda, or it just gets pushed aside every year, as long as I've been here. And Rudy, this is, with all due respect to NDOT, there's good people involved with NDOT, but it just seems to be the same old story and the same old song and dance. And unless you allow us to be your partners and advocate with you to the legislators, to the Transportation Board, nothing's going to change. And I think that we really need to, as an RTC and as a region, send a very, very strong message. We're doing what we can. We're doing above and beyond to make sure our Southern Nevada infrastructure stays ahead of the game, or at least tries to catch up. But we can't do it alone, and we can't create the impression that this is going to go on forever, that NDOT can back off their obligations to Southern Nevada and spend dollars on Tesla or a $100 million road. It's just not fair. It's not fair to our public infrastructure projects, and it's not fair to the citizens of Southern Nevada. So that's my first resolution. And Rudy, I understand that you take this respectfully, but this is the only forum, because we could have meetings forever and a day, but this is the forum that we have to set the public record so people understand how we feel. And certainly these are my opinions, and you can get opinions from the board, but something has to change. We talk about things, we try to move things, we get commitments, and we just don't see, again, the equity coming our way. So I would appreciate, as part of going into 15, that you become a partner, you become a champion for Southern Nevada, and allow us to help you get this message to the appropriate people. And that's a personal resolution. That's not going to be for board action or anything. Commissioner June Kilian.
And you're absolutely clear, and you're not killing the messenger. It's just the message needs to be done. And part of it is, I believe, last session, was it the 3 cents that was swept and put into the highway fund from Southern Nevada? There was there was a sweeping of some funds again.
Well, I know the Convention Authority ended up paying for the travel lanes on the state highway,
But
so
and
this
maybe-
is something
maybe
different.
to
You want
follow
to
up with that,
address that, Rudy? That's routine, but.
Rudy, can you maybe get us just where other subsidies came from us that had to go into or that was put into the highway fund, so at least we're aware of what should be changed. So, we could talk to the governor's office or folks and say, you know what, unsweep that, or this dollar amount, even if it was allocated for Clark County, it is an equity issue, and you know that because you've been around long enough that we've talked not just on the highway funds, but other areas. But it's like part of the conversation with Tracy, I'm hoping that we can all have as local governments, is if we do some transference of roads, you should pick up the Beltway and maintain it, but we need our roads to be brought up to par, and they haven't been before we do the transfer. So it's that give and take that comes in on that value. But that might be helpful to see what monies, in addition to just the standard funding, have gone into funding projects that we sometimes may forget about after 2 or 4 years. That would be helpful. Thank you.
I know that the governor, I think he reached a settlement with Clark County, and that's why the state contributed $35 million to the Airport Connector Interchange Project Phase 2, which was recently bid. And to my knowledge, I don't know about the sweeping up the 3 cents a gallon. Some of the other funding was the underground storage tank, the leaking underground storage tank fund, which still goes to NDOT. But I think that there's the agency, the Department of Environmental Protection for Nevada, still wants to receive some of that money for not only leaking underground storage tanks, but also for cleaning up some of these areas where you can't identify the contamination source, but it's usually related to dry cleaning chemicals in the groundwater. But definitely, we know the equity issue is a serious one and an important one. That's one reason that we've advanced Project Neon as a bonded project, a $500 million project here in Vegas. There's a lot of other projects, as we mentioned, the US 95 interchange project with the Beltway. That's an important one. We didn't seek the funding from Clark County on that one, and we are going to be working towards trying to acquire the Beltway. It makes sense. That's a controlled access facility with ramps and interchanges. So we definitely want to be partners in that effort. But there are a lot of needs statewide, not just talking about Northern Nevada and Washoe County, Carson City area, but we looked at what our backlog is for preservation, getting our roads up to a good condition, and it's substantial. It's $600 million. So we just want to be recognized for what we are doing and advancing certain projects down here. Done a lot of work. We've done it collaboratively too, with the example with Cactus Interchange on I-15. The widening on Blue Diamond, we're going to have another phase that's going to widen it further out towards Mountain Springs, the first phase of that project. So we recognize that there is a lot of needs. There are a lot of needs down here in Southern Nevada, and we've also been looking at what projects have environmental clearance on I-15, on 95, going up towards Mount Charleston, I-15, both north and south, that can be more accelerated. They're costly projects, but we feel that we have an obligation down here in Southern Nevada to deliver some major capacity improvement projects.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, but it's, I served in the legislature, and I appreciate that we negotiated something with Clark County, but it's like negotiated with a gun to your head. You're going to get this one way or another, so how badly are you going to get this? But it is a partnership, and the legislature has to deal with the realities. If they need to raise revenue, then they need to have the courage to raise the revenue to do what they need to do, instead of just robbing from Peter to pay for Paul. And it's not just NDOT. We see it on social services and UMC and everything else that comes in. So it's a broader question. But infrastructure is very key to the economic growth here, the ability to get jobs going, to get people to work. And I get frustrated because I would love to, rather than be talking about adding lanes, is to be doing some kind of light rail down our highway. I mean, we are stuck having to always deal just with the antiquated way of how we've done business instead of being able to look a little bit differently because we don't have the luxury of any kind of revenue. And that's why the fuel tax indexing was a good start, but it's not enough. And they need to take a look legislatively at raising taxes if that's the case and have the courage to do so. We're going to need to do stuff down in southern Nevada as well. And so the economy's upticking, but not enough to really help any of our budgets right now. And so that's a factor that comes into play. And you witness that. You're going to have to go there. But it helps if in leadership someone says, you know what, we can't continue to cobble together monies to pay for this by taking it from other areas. And that's part of the message, I think, that the commissioner's talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Amir Lee?
Thank you, Rudy. By no means is anybody piling on you this. This is just the fact of life down here, but I do
Simply
know-
resolutions, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Simply resolutions.
That's right, and you're a very good chairman, by the way, for bringing this up in a tender way. What I've realized sometimes is certain projects become the face rather than we're just mad. You know, so I just want to throw something out here real quick. Apex is going to happen. Hide and watch, everybody. It's going to happen. Whether I get that money for the pipeline off foreign direct investment, public-private partnership, state bonding, somebody does it themselves, I'm going to do this project. It will happen, okay? But because of that, it's an area that I think, and I want between Al and I to Mesquite, it's going to cause a problem. And so what I'm interested in, that 18,000 acres, 7,000 of it, Rudy, is just as flat as Sparks. You know what I mean? I mean, just or Fallon or anywhere out there, Silver Springs, we're going to be building that. But the 5 miles that we have left to finish from Decatur on to the 15, and then you're helping me with the overpass, that is going to be very critical. And it's going to take years to get that done. So we're going to have to really look at that. But what else is on top of that is as we start moving, the Nevada manufacturers are coming to see me, and the truckers are having a meeting about an intermodal out there and things that can happen, you know, and they're all coming down to discuss this. They're excited about something happening down here. But the Alamo turnoff is going to be an issue. I've talked to the Speedway. Whenever we have those 6 events a year and they want to have some more, they would like to have an off-ramp to the north, so the people coming from Utah and all those areas can get off and not just coagulate all in that same area. You know, they feel that would be a benefit to I-15 because we have to cross those lanes and stuff like that. So I think that because of the Speedway, because of the challenges between Mesquite and Las Vegas in the future with Apex, I'd really like to let you know that is a project that needs to be looked at. These good commissioners and city councilmen have other projects, whether it's sweeping money to put towards a project, how we get it there, I don't care. But really, these are going to be on us so quickly that if we're not cognizant of it now, we're going to wonder why you didn't figure it out. You know, but I just want to warn you that there's some things out there I'd like to sit down with you. And I think the legislature, if we get to these committees and Commissioner, and have personal reasons why these have to happen for us, like in your intersections, you know, up there at 95 and 215. I really believe that if we can show the projects that are desperately needed, that will be the thing that'll sway the discussion our way. And you, by the way, we really appreciate you and Tracy. There's been a huge difference since the past, so it's not directed at you. And I think Chris would tell you the same thing. You are wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I'd echo those comments. Rudy, I appreciate you simply because you let me beat up on you every quarter. But you as an individual, and certainly Tracy and some of the staff have been, it's been a change, and it's an appreciated change, very responsive. Any information that we've asked for, you've given. So let's just move forward, and maybe as an RTC board, let's take a look at what we see over the next horizon as far as priorities, because be it the interchange at the Beltway in 15, the system to system at 95, there are some projects that maybe we want to, as a region, push up and try to advance for all the wonderful reasons of economic development. And so, and let's be an assistance. Let's help Rudy help us. Thank you for that report.
I love that this board talks so much about regionalism and the importance of always looking at something as a region in terms of economic development. It's so refreshing. A lot of times we have conversations with people who really just care about their jurisdictions, but one of the most refreshing things about this board is that you all recognize the responsibility to take a look at things regionally, and that just because something happens in one jurisdiction doesn't mean that it doesn't have economic development benefits for the entire jurisdiction. So I personally thank you for that and focusing on the regional aspects. I would like to, related to the conversation about legislature and priorities for Southern Nevada, I would like to remind everybody that tomorrow the Chamber is hosting the Southern Nevada delegation or Southern Nevada Forum, which is tomorrow at City Hall at 8 a.m. and it is specifically with Southern Nevada legislators, business leaders, and public officials to talk about what are our legislative priorities for the 2015 session. So I invite anybody who can go to please attend, because it is participatory and you do get a chance to hear what's going on.
Commissioner June Kiliani.
Thank you. It's actually the final meeting before going to session of the caucuses that former Speaker Kirkpatrick and the Chamber and the business community have put together. And so it's the forum to try to flush out what we thought was a legislative agenda for Southern Nevada. And Crescent Hardy and I were the co-chairs for Las Vegas, so they need to replace Crescent at that point. But it's kind of the culmination. So even if you haven't been able to participate in those committees, please be there, because there's one on governmental affairs, one on transportation,
Yes,
one on
there's one on
education. So
transportation.
it's open to anybody, and I believe there's a couple hundred businesses that have RSVP'd so far.
Oh, good.
So I think it's reception or breakfast first, and then 8:30. Is that when they start?
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
My calendar shows 8 a.m. But yeah,
All right.
you might. Be
Thank
right.
you.
I will give a presentation to the delegation, to the attendees, regarding the status of fuel revenue indexing, what has happened with what was called AB 413. I know one of the other priorities that they had, Commissioner June Kiliani, you addressed this, was the preservation of the highway fund and making sure that the highway fund is protected and doesn't get swept into the general fund. So I know that is something that they'll be addressing. A couple other things I want to let you know about related to statewide priorities. We are working, the RTC has been meeting for about a year now with the other metropolitan planning organizations in the state. There are only 4 MPOs. It's Carson MPO, Washoe MPO, Tahoe Region MPO, and then Clark County MPO. But collectively, we recognize that we do need to come up with a statewide, we're calling it the Unified Transportation Plan for Nevada. It's an informal document, and nobody's mandating we do this. We're truly doing this to start identifying what the priorities are for the state, and to be able to present to our elected officials and our boards a statewide plan and let you know that we are talking and communicating regularly on what the statewide priorities are. Other thing I'll report to you is, again, for about a little over a year now, I've been trying to go to the State Transportation Board meetings, which is Rudy's board meeting up in Carson, to hear, feel, listen about, what are the discussions, how much attention is Southern Nevada getting in terms of these discussions. And I do admire that board. I do feel that the governor does try very hard to make sure and question and interrogate his staff regularly, is, are these projects fair and equitable? So I share that with you as well.
Commissioner G.
Thank you. I know that was a board that was modified and they added a Southern Nevada.
Correct. We now have 2 Southern Nevada
is that Tom
representatives on there,
Skanke?
Frank Martin and Tom Skanke.
Do they give us a written report or a synopsis or
They
anything?
don't, but
Could we maybe make a request? I mean, it doesn't have to be long-winded, but just here are the points of consideration.
Rudy, if I'm not mistaken, those agendas are posted and the minutes of the meetings are posted? Yeah.
And the presentations that are made are posted in that packet.
certainly what I can do as part of my briefings to you is brief you on the discussions that were held.
Mr. Chairman, there's the opportunity to attend through video conferencing. The Monday meeting is unique in that it's going to be starting at 1 o'clock. They usually start at 9 o'clock, and they're usually the second Monday of the month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Your next item is item number 4, which is to conduct your first citizens participation period.
This is the first time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak on a posted agenda item, now is your opportunity. Anyone wishing to speak?
I do apologize, Commissioners. I just properly noticed an item that we do have a question on, an item turned in one of your forms. On item 34, our question is, there's a creation of 16 full-time permanent positions. Is this for RTC? Are they going to be public employees?
That is item number 34?
That's correct.
Okay.
And our question is, the 16 full-time permanent positions, will they be considered RTC public employees?
Okay, thank you. We'll answer that one.
Okay, also, any reason why there's no cost value on how much it's going to cost for the 16 permanent positions?
Okay.
The answer?
We'll take those two questions and
Okay,
what
thank
we'll
you.
do is I'll pull that item. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board on a specific item? Seeing and hearing no one, will close this portion of public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Your next item is item number 35, which is to discuss the no.
Yeah.
Oh, consent. Weird.
And if we could pull 34 from consent.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling item 34.
A motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Great.
Item number 34.
Item number 34 is to approve the creation of 16 full-time permanent positions to assist with customer service, oversight, and support for various departments.
Item 34, Commissioners, is to approve the recommendation of 16 permanent positions to oversee and assist with customer service, oversight and support for various departments for possible action. The total cost of this item to the RTC is an additional as far as annual salary and benefits is concerned, is $827,813. And the positions that are being requested are 13 transit ambassadors and assistant supervisors to oversee them, 1 administrative specialist for transit certification, 1 senior facilities engineering technician for facilities, and 1 administrative specialist for government affairs. Be more than happy to answer any questions.
And I would, as was raised by Mr. Mendoza, I take it that these are RTC positions?
These are RTC positions, all eligible for SEIU representation.
And you indicated the cost, so?
Yes.
Other comments or questions, entertain a motion. Motion on the floor, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Item number 35 is a presentation. This item is to discuss the RTC's potential role as the core administrator of Southern Nevada Strong's regional plan and to take any appropriate action. And with us today, we have Raymond Hess with our Metropolitan Planning Organization to give you a briefing.
Thank you, Tina, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. I'm sure you're aware, but I'd like to give you a brief history on Southern Nevada Strong. Southern Nevada Strong is a collaborative regional planning effort that was funded with a $3.5 million grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The grant funded 3 years of in-depth research and community engagement efforts to examine issues facing our community and propose collaborative solutions. Many thanks go to the City of Henderson, which staffed Southern Nevada Strong from 2011 to present on behalf of the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition. So thank you, Councilwoman Deborah March, and we have Stephanie Garcia-Voss and Lisa Corrado in the audience as well, who've been intimately involved in Southern Nevada Strong. They worked closely with 13 regional partners, including each of the jurisdictions, Clark County School District, as well as the RTC in the development of a regional plan. Through an unprecedented level of public engagement, they heard from nearly 70,000 Southern Nevada voices. The result is the Southern Nevada Strong Regional Plan, which is a roadmap to connect good jobs with housing, quality schools, and reliable transportation choices throughout Southern Nevada. On July 29, 2014, the Southern Nevada Strong Consortium Committee, which is the volunteer leadership committee representing the 13 regional partners and the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition, recommended that the RTC assume the role of core administrator. A month later, on August 26, 2014, the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition agreed and further recommended that the RTC assume the role of core administrator. So what does that mean? At this time, the role of core administrator has not been fully defined. So the RTC assumes the role. If we assume the role, it will have the discretion in shaping its evolution. It is the RTC's understanding that the primary function of the core administrator will be to coordinate and support the implementation of the regional plan with the 13 regional partners. RTC staff is currently evaluating the organizational capacity and resources needed to successfully carry out the core administrator functions. Let's give you an idea of where we're at in the process and some next steps. From January to March, each of the jurisdictions will review and adopt the regional plan. Therefore, it will come to each of you in your capacities on your councils and commissions for review and approval. January 27th, the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition is expected to adopt the regional plan. In mid-February, if the board approves the RTC's role as core administrator, there will be a public event showcasing the transition of the regional plan from the city of Henderson to the RTC. Tentatively, that date has been scheduled for February 11th. And some of the ongoing efforts are that RTC staff is working very closely with Southern Nevada Strong staff regarding the possible transition. We've been working with consultants to develop short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategies for success. We've also been in contact with the federal agencies that support this effort as well. Staff recommends accepting the role of core administrator for the Southern Nevada Strong Regional Plan. And while you ponder staff's recommendation, we'd like to show you a video produced by Southern Nevada Strong on transit-oriented developments. It illustrates that coordination of transportation and land use is one of the keys to success for implementation of the regional plan.
When you think about Southern Nevada and the way the urban form has developed, we have houses that are kind of spread out everywhere, and we have 2-3-story apartment buildings along the busier streets.
Our environments are built around cars and moving cars from place to place. And everything we do, you have to get in the car. I mean, people get in their car to check their mail. If you don't think that's true, take 1 or 2 days and don't use your car, and you will see the huge impact that it has on our lives. They have emissions that go out into the environment. We drive from place to place, and we're completely auto-dependent.
One of the real nice things about transit-oriented development is that it creates opportunity for a very walkable neighborhood, a place where people can leave their condo, their townhouse, or even their home, and they can walk to their neighbor's house. They can walk their kids to play with their friends.
There's so many health benefits to that. We know that there's an amount of exercise that's recommended that we should do every day. Wouldn't that be great if that exercise was walking to get some fresh food, or to go to an activity where there's a physical behavior, rather than sitting in the car and pushing on the pedal?
What transit-oriented development tries to do is take some of that density, some of those apartments and condos, and put those in areas so you have some maybe mixed use, you have some shops, you have more high density residential.
It's a holistic approach for community development. It looks at having access to parks and walkability. Transit improves the lives of low and moderate income people by providing them access to jobs, housing, and other amenities that we all take for granted.
So if you could imagine, you would have a higher density area maybe in Henderson, in North Las Vegas, maybe you're out in the Summerlin area, over in the south part of the county, and all of those would be connected up by transit with enough people in each of those areas that you'd have enough ridership to take that transit system to work or to the Strip or to other areas.
We're in the infant stages here in Southern Nevada where we can put in the systems and to basically really transform the way we live here. When you put in a permanent system like light rail and have established permanent stations and stops, you're going to see more investment in those areas and surrounding them, because business owners, property owners are going to know there's a transit stop here. I'm going to invest in commercial development. People are going to want to build residential units there because it's close to the transit stop.
We have to, as a community, look at the cost of transportation, not as an expense, not as a cost, but as an investment. And that investment is to allow us, as a community, to be vibrant, to be rich in our culture and our quality of life. We need it to be competitive with the rest of the world.
We want to continue to diversify our economy, and we have to look what other communities are doing, and that's an important piece of their strategic plan is implementing comprehensive transportation plans.
A great example is Phoenix. They invested $1 billion in their transit system, and they expected about a $3 billion return in economic development along that corridor. Instead, they've documented $7 billion. So certainly, it can be a boon to your economy.
Transit is one of the few investments the public sector can make that not only stimulates the economy, but directly improves the lives of low-income residents without being a direct subsidy. Investing in transit connects people to their destinations, such as work, school, and the grocery store, all while reducing costs for already struggling families.
We ultimately want to create a better community and a more vibrant community, and part of that means having quality housing connected to transportation that connects you to your employment centers too.
By growing transit-oriented development, it'll have a very positive impact on our economy. It'll stretch our resources longer, and it'll allow us to continue to build the great quality of life that we enjoy today.
And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilwoman.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Raymond, for your presentation and for taking such a strong leadership role in the whole effort here with Southern Nevada Strong and the regional planning effort that we've been undertaking. I'd also like to thank our chairman and Tina Quigley for placing this item on the agenda for this conversation today, because I think that we really are in transformational times in Southern Nevada, and I think that we are at the epicenter right now of what we can be, and a lot of it has really been about working collaboratively and cooperatively with one another to achieve those ends. And I think that this board is probably one of the most collaborative and cooperative boards we have in Southern Nevada, where we do work together and we can solve issues and we scratch away at issues, but this really is an action-oriented board and organization. So it's exciting to be a part of this group at RTC. And I've had the privilege also of being the chair of the Southern Nevada Strong Consortium Committee that's involved government at all levels in Southern Nevada, as well as many organizations, community and private and public sector folks who help to guide this planning effort. And there are 4 key elements in the role of the core administrator that we saw that we need to just outline for you here today. And those 4 core areas that I think we should be discussing are that we must continue to be a model for community engagement. Through this process, and as you heard Raymond say, there was so much engagement in the effort here, hearing from the public. This truly was a true collaborative effort in Southern Nevada to find out what the citizens wanted in their community planning and going forward, and allowing them a meaningful voice in that dialogue, especially the marginalized group who are most impacted by decisions we make. This is a process that allows them to be engaged in those decisions and that effort. Further, we must also pursue resources, and that includes grant funding or collaborative relationships with other states or federal government or entities that can help us to build our capacity in Southern Nevada. And it was interesting for me, I was recently at a League of Cities meeting in Texas, and at the meeting, the folks in Texas were bemoaning that they send $1 to Washington and only get 95 cents back on the dollar. We send $1 to Washington and we get 65 cents on the dollar back. We've got to do a better job, and I think that the RTC can play an important role not only in helping to bring those resources together, but to also helping to support each of the local entities, the governments, in pursuing those resources and bringing them back for our communities to achieve goals, whether it's related to transportation, land use, housing, and any number of issues that education that we're dealing with in each one of our communities. We must also be encouragement for our member agencies by working together with the local governments to provide them with the technical assistance and the support that they need, whether it's connecting with federal agencies or other entities to ensure that we're meeting our goals and meeting the needs of our residents in things like enhancing our parks or improving access to healthy foods or creating transit-oriented developments in our communities as well. And finally, we must also be a convener, and that's where we bring folks together to have these important conversations, to solve issues in our communities, to further integrate transit, jobs, and housing to ensure our economic competitiveness as communities. And we've begun to do this by dealing with many issues, including fuel revenue indexing. That was a perfect example of how we work together to solve challenges and to bring resources to bear in our own communities and to provide a platform to share information and build on our own professional capacities and the development of the community's capacity to implement the principles of the plan as well. So let me just share with you real quickly what we're doing in Henderson to get started with this implementation so you can see what maybe perhaps can be done in each of the communities as well. We will update our comprehensive plan in 2015 to incorporate the principles of the regional plan. So everything that we're looking to adopt in the regional plan will then take it back to our own communities for adoption. We will be updating our Boulder Highway Investment Strategy and the mixed-use corridor regulations to integrate findings from Southern Nevada Strong. We plan to start an aging-in-place plan to address codes and issues that are impediments to fair housing in our jurisdictions, and we'll be revamping our public outreach techniques to incorporate that into our personal plans in our cities. We are in regular contact with our federal partners and are actively pursuing funding and technical assistance to implement strategies for the plan. We've applied to EPA for technical assistance to host workshops about social equity to improve equitable development in the city of Henderson. And we've applied to EPA for brownfields grants to catalyze development along the Boulder Highway, where our opportunity site is located. And that list goes on and on. And further, the city of Henderson will make itself available to each of the local entities to help you with the transition in your communities, because this really is a regional effort. And while we're asking the RTC to take a leadership role, we each are playing a role in our own communities as well. And lastly, the firm of Purdue Marion is under contract with the city of Henderson to support this transition process, and will be assisting with the development and defining the next stages in the regional plan implementation in each of the agencies. And I think we have folks here from Purdue Marion as well. This plan is a great starting point, and we're excited about what we can achieve. And I can tell you 3 years ago when we started this effort, I sat in the room as chair of this effort and I thought, oh my God, this is overwhelming. How can we possibly accomplish this? And here 3 years later, we have a very significant plan that we're at the point of adopting now, and it's exciting. And I want to just acknowledge our Southern Nevada Strong staff that's here with us today, Stephanie and Lisa. If you'd stand up and be acknowledged, I'd appreciate it. This is a major accomplishment. And we have a lot of other partners who helped us, so thank you, Sue. We appreciate what you've done. And I think Jay Barrett and Miles are here, and of course the folks from Purdue Marion, and many other folks across the jurisdictions who really were an important partner in this effort. And, you know, I'd just like to finish with maybe a personal story, and that is 10 years ago, I took my son to the airport to hop on a plane to begin his commitment to the Army, and I was turning my 18-year commitment to my son over to my country to serve our country, and I had no idea what I could expect. I knew that he was in good hands, but you just don't know. You have to let go, and you have to give him legs and let him run, and he's made me proud, and I know that that's what's going to happen here, that you guys are going to make us very proud, but it is hard to let go and let you run with it and to kind of step back and let you make us all proud. So thank you very much. Thank you.
I appreciate the comments very much, Councilwoman, and it is not lost on us that what we are going to be undertaking in terms of being the Corps Administrator is certainly going to be a commitment. But it is one that we are willing to make from the heart, because I think that truly as the MPO, we recognize that it is our responsibility to be looking at things regionally and working with our jurisdictions to truly create a region that is competitive with those that have gone before us and been successful. Salt Lake, Denver, Phoenix, those who have been there. We have a lot to learn from them, and we are committed to carrying it out to the best of our ability, and we know that you will be there, all of you, to guide us along the whole way. So, thank you.
Commissioner June Kiliani.
Thank you. I want to thank Lisa, too. She helped us get our Maryland Parkway Business Coalition really off the ground, and it's those eyes sometimes, it seemed overwhelming, but we're making progress, and Miles attends our meetings from time to time as well. But what I have to say is, in the 90s, when I first tried to pass legislation for regional planning, there was a lot of resistance, and then finally we passed it in 97 with the help of Mayor. Were you there at that time? Yeah. And John Porter worked with me on it. But I'm going to look legislatively to see if I can find a legislator to maybe just take, there's two parts to that planning, and one was creating an act, which has now become a little bit too, not flexible, I guess, for lack of a better term. And so I'm going to see if maybe we can just remove the act, still allow the regional planning component, but not be so restrained, because I think there's another role we could do through regional planning with the MPO without duplicating services. And with no disrespect to my former colleagues that served on the original regional planning, they never did the land use and the social networking and the equity issues. It was always, with no disrespect, they focused mostly on homeless instead of really looking at what the intent of the planning component was. So I think there's an opportunity now, taking this a different direction, and not really a different direction, but just maybe less territorial, more collaborative, and maybe getting rid of one more layer, or at least having that layer now work with the MPO in a different way. So I am going to work on that. Just wanted to, I haven't found anybody yet. And it doesn't change anything. And in fact, I've talked with our planning staff, and they said that that would help them as we're doing some of our land use guide updates. It gives us just a little bit more flexibility in order to be able to work that through. And then maybe the electeds that still serve on the planning can be a little bit more engaged in a focused way with, how do we look at social equity when we're approving apartment complexes? I mean, sometimes we don't look at the access to grocery stores or access to healthy places where kids can play. And so it'd be nice to start really shaping that instead of competing with each other as government. It's like, where's that collaboration? We've got it, and this is a good place for this piece, I think, at this time. So I'm excited. I think we're going to have some really good changes come into place. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Lee.
Thank you, Larry. Usually I don't say much in this meeting, but today's been very interesting to me. Very important things you've been talking about. And maybe it's, time that I got more involved. But I will tell you that this has been a very important opportunity for North Las Vegas to have other people in the region look at us, to see that what we had to offer. We've got over $100,000 plan that we were able to get out of this program. With that was great. Our staff has been very involved. Our city council has been very involved. However, I'm probably going to be voting no today on this issue. This is a very huge and important task, and unless you can convince North Las Vegas that Deborah March is going to be involved in this, even if it's a city, even if it's a subcommittee of one, I don't know how you're going to do this, but you're going to have to have somebody in this board that works on this. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that her and Chris will stay highly involved in this, because a lot of us sometimes don't take the initiative or the leadership that it takes to do this. This is something important that these people they've given their lives to it to get to this point. We have to continue to keep that intensity on it. But if you can convince me that Deborah will have something to do with this, I would support this issue.
Haven't made a motion yet, Mr. Chairman.
And that would be my motion.
Deborah, you're committed to the RTC board.
Councilman Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday, we had a lengthy presentation by Mike Jansen about transportation needs in the city of Las Vegas, studying those needs. And I want to share with all of you the unique nature of it, because it went into Clark County. In fact, we discussed even the monorail connector back all the way to the airport. Mike had gone and spoken to Curtis Miles with the monorail folks to kind of get an idea what they were thinking about. We're still talking regionally about that connectivity. whether it's Maryland Parkway and from the airport into downtown and from downtown into North Las Vegas and making all that connection. I guess what I want to ask is Phoenix's investment in their light rail, $1 billion. Several of us went to Salt Lake last year to kind of look at their system. And I think we need to be bold. And Councilwoman, I'm excited about this. I don't want to get off topic because I remember 3 years ago when you brought this to my attention, I was scratching my head going, really? We're going to go do what? And you've done it. I mean, you're there. So I'm very excited about this. But as we went to Salt Lake and saw that system and saw the economic activity that was happening along their light rail system, because it was a hop on, hop off. And it created and generated that excitement along the rails. And speaking with the mayor and his comments about, before we put that rail in, those areas of the city were dying or already dead. And I think that's important to us. So if we had $1 billion right now, what would we spend it on? Are we prepared to go that far? Okay, Commissioner Giuliani has a plan. Let's go get that money. I say that because I said let's be bold and big here and think big. Commissioner, am I correct? Was it your thought process?
Absolutely, and I commend Deborah for this, because to put something this, we sometimes we know we have an idea, but to actually get it moving forward in 3 years, what's been accomplished is phenomenal. And in working with Curtis, I'm not a big supporter of mono, but I do think as you look at the interconnectivity, there's a better way to do it that will still help them connect with that. But it is about looking at where we have gentrified in some of our neighborhoods, where we need to spur economic development, where we can get mixed use and retail. I didn't get to go to Salt Lake, but I did the Phoenix. It's phenomenal, and I travel the world, so it's what our tourists expect as well. And so, we have to look at that part of it. So, yeah, if we had $1 billion, I think we actually have the framework for a plan from my personal belief would be from the airport all the way past North Las Vegas, even out to Apex if they get that off the ground. Because that is the interconnectivity. Our folks don't just live in one spot any longer. They intercommute. And, when we first put transit-oriented development in the legislature in the back in the 90s, it wasn't even in our land use guides. We did that in the 90s. And yet we're still, you got to get into your car to get to the Smith's Food King that you can see outside of your house, So we still have work, but I think we've got a good idea of where we could spend that money in a way that would absolutely economically develop. The Brownfield grant is huge, I think. It's a good start, but there is so much more that we could take a look at. So,
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, thank you for those comments. I appreciate you backing up on that. I would like to say that, through the Southern Nevada Strong and then transition from the city of Henderson over to the RTC, let's go big before we go home, is what I want to say. I mean, let's do it. And if it's $1 billion we're looking for, let's figure out a way as the local governments in Southern Nevada, in conjunction, and I'm not leaving Rudy, you're out of this. You're going to be part of that too, with the state. Let's go find it. Let's make it happen for the benefit of Southern Nevada as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the comments. One of the things about the RTC and certainly the Regional Flood Control District, they're so successful as public agencies. I've always felt primarily because we as electeds and the general public look at roads and detention basins and flood channels as ignorant of jurisdictional boundaries. The success is because those functions of the two agencies are truly regional. When you mention the word planning and zoning, boy, the barriers go up. At every jurisdiction, it's traditionally been, you can handle my roads regionally, you can handle my flood channels regionally, but don't you dare tell me, well, how I'm going to zone. And I say that because what Deborah has accomplished, and certainly with a lot of support cast over the last few years, in my opinion, is perhaps the biggest accomplishment towards regional planning that I've seen in 30 years in the Valley. And those of you that have followed it certainly understand, but those that are just hearing about this for the first time, her leadership has been unparalleled. What she has done as an individual and a person with vision to create at least the window of opportunity to take planning to the regional level without hearing doors slam in her face has been remarkable. And she deserves all the credit in the world, and certainly the support of many good people that have been working this for 3 years. But Deborah, you've done a great job, and this is the culmination. We hope you let go. Put a parachute. Put a parachute, what you let go, so it'll be a soft landing. And Raymond, would you repeat what staff's recommending so we could get a motion going with an amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Staff's recommendation is for the RTC to assume core administrator role of the Southern Nevada Strong Regional Plan.
That would be my motion. And I'll stay involved, so Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Oh, how exciting, and also how very, very scary. So we will be reporting to you regularly. Whew. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, you now move on to item number 36, which is your second citizens participation period.
The second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to the board, this is your opportunity. Seeing and hearing no one, we'll close. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on, Mr. Mendoza. I wanted to get a little bit of a reaction from you. Would you like to speak first?
Morning, Commissioners. Happy New Year to all of you. This item 34 that you guys just voted for will now go away, and we'll be arguing it down the road, which of course you guys will just hear us anyway. I just did a quick math, and apparently it appears that $50,000 annually for each full-time permanent employee. I don't know if that's true, but I think it was $800,000. Our one-year operator at $13.95, he gets $14,508 a year. Wow, he might as well apply for you guys. Our $21 operator, 10 years of service, he makes $21,840 a year. So apparently, we'll recommend our drivers and mechanics probably go apply with it for $50,000 a year. Anyway, that's a shame. Let me go ahead and read a letter that I'm proposing, and well, I'm introducing here for public comments and for the record. And then I'll give you the copies for the commissioners to review and then decide whatever happens. Okay, Ms. Quigley and commissioners, attached you will find a formal complaint that ATU filed with Senators Harry Reid and Dean Heller regarding some instances where ATU feels there was some inappropriate behavior by some commissioners and or RTC staff employees or employees towards the ATU Local 1637. After 20 months of negotiations with Keolis and MVT, ATU still doesn't have a CBA for the bargaining unit employees, but we do have the green light to call a strike at any time for the members from the North Las Vegas yard, and that's Simmons, and that's MV. Both companies were aware that our international vice president was going to retire at the beginning of this year, but yet both companies dragged their feet and made proposals to the members without the consent of the negotiators. In the end, both companies' best and final offer was rejected by the members. MV lied to the ATU about the two-tier wage scale, that they would not offer it to the bargaining unit employees on the proposal. They did make that proposal on a two-tier for both mechanics and operators, so they lied to us, and they are nothing but snakes. Keolis, on the other hand, probably would have had a CBA, but they are being greedy and want to do harm to the bargaining unit employees. Yes, commissioners, ATU is fed up of the abuse RTC has imposed on our bargaining unit, and our ATU International should be here in about 2 weeks to see if these companies get serious about a CBA for the bargaining unit employees, and in the meantime, we'll await for Senator Reid and Heller's response to our formal complaint. At this time, I'll go ahead and give them to Ms. Quigley so she could give you the complaint that we filed.
Thank you. Next card, Dennis Hennessy. Angela, make sure we get one into the public record. Yeah.
Happy New Year, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be up here. I feel really small with what I'm going to bring up today, though I'm pretty passionate about it, given all the dollars that you guys have been talking about, because that's overwhelming. Your planning and everything that's there is overwhelming. What I want to speak about today a little bit has to do with integrity. I'm a taxpaying citizen of Clark County. I think I've done my research up to a point, and I think I generated some action based on my research. And I trust MJ and her staff, whom I've spoke with, will get the right answers to the questions that I've asked. I believe in the system. But again, I talk about integrity. I want to talk about New Year's Eve. Big day here in Clark County. Hundreds of thousands of people go down to the Strip. Don't know whether you're all aware, but the many different agencies that are here for our safety and security during that time on New Year's Eve made a formal request with the RTC for the RTC to provide buses to be used in case there was an emergency. I've been assigned that project as a driver for 3 out of the last 5 years. So in parts of what we've done with that, I know what we've done. That's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about how those buses were distributed down to be used. The details on how Metro and the Homeland Security inspect those buses, I'll let MJ inform you of that. But I'm here to tell you that the 12 buses that were taken down as that safety and security net were all taken out of our maintenance dead hole over at the Sunset Bus Yard. Buses that were not okay, and I'm not going to say they weren't DOT certified. MJ and I'll agree to disagree on that. But these were buses that were not pre-tripped by the drivers that were down there. They were pre-tripped by somebody else. I'm here to tell you the 12 of us that sat down there, had there been an emergency and those buses had to be used, they wouldn't have moved because there were various reasons. Again, I had conversations with MJ yesterday, and it generated a meeting yesterday, and she's convinced that those buses were in a safe place to move. I'm here to tell you they weren't. I'm here to talk about integrity, because a comment that was made by one of the Keolis management members to us that were doing that job was that the RTC knew those buses wouldn't move, and they were okay with paying for those buses to be there. I can stand here right now and look right at MJ and say, until yesterday, when this came up, the RTC didn't know in advance that those buses weren't going to move. That's integrity. That's integrity, guys. And inspect what you expect. And by the way, our buses are still filthy.
Thank you, Dennis. Patricia Anderson, good to have you back. Do you want us to? No, I'm good. No, are you? Okay.
I want to thank you guys for the beautiful card. God bless you all. And thank you very much. I have been very concerned about what's going on. It's been going on for 13 years with this contract. This contract needs to be signed and needs to be signed in the next 10 days. Because for the simple reason is these drivers, they have responsibilities. And we don't need to have them going through these changes. They have kids in school, college, and what have you, homes. We have responsibilities. They have mortgages to pay. And I feel that we need to turn around again and respect them, and we have to secure them. We cannot really, by law, see, I'm from New York City, by law, your bus driver it should be a total shutdown. It should not be, the driver should not be driving, period. But like I said again, because they're not protected, what have you is concerned. And this is what it's all about. A lot of these people are getting on the bus, and I've been riding the bus, and I've been having meetings with these bus drivers, I've been talking to them. Expired bus passes. It's supposed to be okay. No, we got to stop this. It's enough. When I look at my bus pass, if it's 2 minutes late, I tear it up and I get another one. It's enough. It's enough. I respect the drivers. I show my ID, what have you, and I do what I have to do for my drivers. We have to respect these drivers. These drivers are out all during the night. I live on Decatur. They're 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They are dealing with these lunatics out there. These people, they want to do a freebie. It's not a freebie. I don't see nothing free on that bus. I don't see nothing to say on that bus is free. So this is what we have to do. We must, in the next 10 days, and I will meet with anyone, because whatever the case is, let's sign this contract. Let's secure these drivers and let us respect, and let's get these drivers in 10 days. Let's done. I mean, this is it. We cannot keep going through. This has been 13 years. 13 years we've been going through contracts. Now I think we need to stop. This is my personal opinion, what have you, because like I said again, I've been protecting these drivers. A lot of drivers, they're frustrated, which is understandable, because they don't know what's going to happen the next day or not. And what we not need to do is another thing too. We don't need to be extra drivers coming in. These extra drivers, if you're paying for extra drivers, then you can pay these drivers. That's the end of it. If you're going to use Lieutenant Johnny from Chicago and New York and Buffalo and everything, and you're bringing them in, then you can turn around again and let these drivers, give these drivers their money. This is what's happening, okay? You have great drivers out there. They're frustrated, and I'm trying to do my best for them to let them know that I'm there for them. And as I said, when I get on that bus, I talk with them, okay?
And
God bless you all.
Patricia, in case you didn't put your name on the record, would you?
My name is Patricia Anderson.
Thank you. Okay, I have 2 cards left. Is there anyone that has not submitted a card that wishes to speak during this comment period? Please come forward. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Because we have 2 mics, you could make your way down. Okay, we're going to have this gentleman, and then there's 2 cards, and that will take care of the speakers this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. For the public comment, my name is Joseph Campbell. I've been a driver for about 3 years now. The only issue I'm really having is day to day, I've been noticing, and I can't really name mechanics' names, but there are some buses that aren't being fixed to safety standards. Now, granted, they are to DOT standards, but there are some buses that aren't maybe it's cost efficient, or maybe it's priorities. But I think we really have to grasp the concept that, you know, we're not gods. We can't expect everything to go the way we want it to go, because things happen, and when we don't plan for those things to happen, then we have to scramble to cover ourselves so we don't look bad. And my thing is, especially those deuce buses, they're not made for this type of city. They're not made to go up steep hills, especially in the summer. And after you running a bus for 24 hours with no downtime, no time for it to get a full maintenance check, you know, you're pressed to go against the clock and to get the system running up again. And what I mean by that is, when you have 15 minutes to do a thorough pre-trip, you're not taking in considerations the little things. And I know you guys probably don't understand none of this because you don't get taught this, but what I want you to understand is we are really being pressured to do things the way that they see fit. But I don't think that it's the right thing that to do, because it's not being planned accordingly. And I want you to understand that when a pre-trip is done efficiently, it's not 15 minutes, be like 20 minutes, because if you're rushing through to get it done in 15 minutes, you're going to miss something, you know. And I really think that, you know, we really need to look at those things. And furthermore, and this would be real quick, what the MV has proposed anywhere from 1.5% of an increase. Even what I have right now, it's almost $1, and a 1.5 increase is not even $1. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Kevin Adams and then Wayne Fritz will be our last speakers.
Good morning. Happy New Year. I'm Kevin Adams, Executive Vice President and General Manager of Keolis in Las Vegas. I'd like to address two issues. One, the current labor situation, and then secondly, comment on Dennis's comments and invite him to inspect some maintenance records with me. We last met with the ATU on December 29th. We did that with the mediator. Through that mediator, we listened very carefully to the union's concerns about our offers, and then we constructed counteroffers in direct response to those. The union received those and indicated to us that we would receive counteroffers by Friday of last week, but given the situation with their IVP, we understand that that's going to be slightly delayed. So that's where we are, and as before, we're interested in getting that job done, and we want to do that. So as far as Dennis's comments, New Year's Eve was really a pretty phenomenal day. I don't know how many extra vehicles MV had out, but at Keolis we had 56 extra vehicles on the road for 186. We worked a lot of hours and got a lot of things done and carried a lot of customers, maintained very good frequency. And we're proud of that aspect. Now, the vehicles that Dennis referred to in the dead hole, please don't picture that as a place like a grave that you're getting ready to put the tombstone on top of. It's a place in the yard where the buses are parked that are awaiting maintenance, scheduled maintenance, or possibly buses that are permanently down. In this particular case, because of the demand for service, we actually started working on preparation for New Year's Eve about 30 days in advance on maintenance. Each of the vehicles records that were selected out of the 12 vehicles that were referred to, we went through the maintenance records. We verified what the defect was. We repaired defects or made a determination in concert with RTC's maintenance manager that the vehicle did not have a safety vehicle and could be used for service. The particular bus that Dennis drove, there was a brake write-up on that bus, and that bus was actually given what's called a decelerometer test, and it passed that test. And so the 12 vehicles were taken over there. They didn't need to be used, thank goodness. And so we think we did it the right way. And again, Dennis, you're invited to come and look at those records with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Fritz.
Chairman Brown, members of the commission. My name is Wayne Fritz. I'm the Vice President and General Manager for MV Transportation. Just as an update, Jose is absolutely correct. The best and final offer submitted by MV was rejected by the employees. We immediately communicated back to the ATU that we requested additional dates to sit down and go through the differences and try to come up with a program that is going to be that can be voted on and accepted. To this point in time, we have not received a response. We're still waiting on dates, but we do understand they have a new international vice president, so and it'll take time to get that person up to speed. So that's where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll close this portion. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing no one, we'll close this portion of public comment. Wish everybody a happy new year. This meeting is adjourned.